Recently, I discovered that you can't trust anyone. Not in some cynical those you love will betray you angst BS. More of a, you can't trust that the people around you are human. A few months ago, some old college friends and I arranged a camping trip for the 5-year anniversary of us all leaving school. It was a pretty big group. I knew all of them, but I wasn't really close to any of them except for Paul, Al, and Lara. None of us had done that good of a job keeping in touch, aside from the occasional text or random meme. I was pretty excited. It was going to be the first time seeing each other in years. I was driving up a little later than everyone else. I pulled up to the campsite feeling that classic apprehension that we might have grown apart and that things would be awkward. When I got there, it was already dark. They were all sitting around the campfire laughing and having a good old time. I nervously approached, finding a space for my chair between Paul and a stranger I didn't really recognize. After a few good stories and a few good beers, my nerves settled and I was having a blast just like old times. It was going well until Lara started retelling a story about her, Paul, and Al and I had pulled an elaborate prank on one of the RAs. As the story went along, people chiming in with details and laughing along, I realized I didn't see Al there with us. After she finished, I piped up with, "Where is Al anyway? I thought he'd be here." The group all laughed as I sat there confused what the joke was. Until the man next to me said, "Wow, I see how it is. Pretend you don't even see me." I laughed along pretending I was in on the joke as people made fun of me for not noticing Al was next to me the whole time, but that man was clearly and distinctly not Al. At first I thought they were pranking me, but no, everyone was acting like this stranger was actually Al. We all laughed and reminisced for a couple more hours. It was fun, but I couldn't really get over this fake Al stuff. That night, alone in my tent, I pulled up some old photos of the gang and I. Al wasn't in any of them, but that stranger was. I found one from Al's birthday. Sitting there behind the cake, as we were all singing, was that stranger. I had never seen that man before, and yet that man claimed he was my friend, and he was sitting where Al, my close friend, should have been. The next morning, fake Al, I'd call him a doppelganger, but I think those are supposed to look at least vaguely like the person they're trying to replace. Anyway, fake Al made small talk with me while we were making breakfast. Everything about him was just wrong. His voice was different. He was shorter. He used his left hand instead of his right to cut the veggies. The real Al was a righty. This thing looked different, sounded different, moved different, but everyone acted like nothing had changed. Even though the pictures on my phone had this strange new man and everyone thought he was Al, I knew he wasn't. We all went for a hike, which I would have enjoyed if the strange man hadn't spent most of it trying to talk to me about all the fun stuff that Al and I had done. He seemed to somehow know everything the two of us had ever done, and yet periodically he'd get something basic wrong. Nothing big, but names of roommates, names of professors, stuff like that. Stuff you don't usually forget. When we got back to our campsite, I offered to run into town and get some ice cream for everyone, so I'd have an excuse to get away from that thing for a bit, so I'd have a chance to process what was going on and come up with some sort of plan or test. I wasn't sure. It was almost safe, but as I was getting into my car, the fake called out that he'd keep me company. Before I really had a chance to decline his insidious offer, he was already practically in my car. I tried to tell him I was fine on my own, but he insisted. As soon as we left the campsite, he went completely stiff. It was like he completely shut off as soon as he was out of sight of the people who actually believed his act. It was a long, silent drive. He didn't move or say a single word the whole way to the store. He didn't even react when we got to the store and I got out of the car. At least he'll let me shop alone, I guess. When I got back to the car after my fairly lethargic shopping trip, he still didn't react. It wasn't until we were practically pulling up to the campsite that he sprang back to life. He said in a monotone voice, "Oh, I found this the other day," as he held it up for me to see. It was us, the gang and I. Right in the middle was standing Al, the real one. I glanced up to its face. It had a devilish grin, a toothy grin, revealing rows of long, sharp teeth. I was kinda at shock at that point. I just finished the drive and parked the car. That thing kept staring at me until we rounded the corner back into sight of the others. As soon as they could have possibly seen him, he immediately turned the act back on, back to that fake Al persona of his. After I parked, I saw Paul standing in the parking area away from the rest of the group. As I and that thing got out of the car, Paul called us over to him. He was acting kind of cagey, strange, asking us if we noticed anything weird going on. I wasn't about to say anything in front of that thing, especially after I'd seen its teeth, so I just kept quiet. Eventually, Paul got to the point, though. He asked us if we'd noticed anything off about Lara. He asked if she was how we remembered her, looked how we remembered her, sounded how we remembered her, moved how we remembered her. The fake owl turned to me and grinned as he told Paul she seemed normal to him. I handed Paul the ice cream and told him something had come up and I needed to get home. Since then, I haven't talked to any of them. I haven't actually talked to anyone. Haven't even left my house. Maybe that's what they want? Either way, I can't stand to be around anyone. I can't trust anyone anymore. How could I when I can't tell if anyone is who or what they claim to be? Who knows how many people are actually those things? Maybe I'm the only real person. At any rate, I'm the only person I know is actually a person. Cogito ergo sum, I guess.